Guys, I'm here today with the wonderful Elena, who is has been a client of ours for how long has it been? I think
I think it's a couple of years.
a couple of years now. Yeah,
Mhm.
we've been working on the second book together, but today we want to talk about her first novel, which she has successfully finished and which is going to be publishing pretty
Yeah.
soon. When is the
October. Yeah, it's going to be published in October.
Super exciting. Before we go into talking about the book, who is the author? Who's the woman behind the book? Like, do you want to tell us
Well,
just a tiny bit about yourself? Yeah.
Hi guys. My name is Elena. I'm from Austin, Texas.
Hmm.
I'm a bilingual writer. I speak English and Russian.
Awesome.
I wrote a psychological thriller, romance driven. It's has some elements of historical fiction.
Mm.
It's set in St. Petersburg. Very exciting story.
Love it, love it. Yeah, and the kind of the hook, the concept, this girl Natasha, the main character, like really a bit of an innocent and naive young girl from the countryside, moves to St. Petersburg to kind of pursue her dreams, and she meets this professor who's
Yeah,
happily named Dr. Orlov. I was like, Orlov Gorlov? That's not me, right? It's
that's
not.
very
And so this professor, who's a lot more, like a lot older and a lot more sophisticated, also has a pretty dark past. And then as the story goes on, and let's make sure we don't spoil anything because I want people to read the book. As the story goes on, Natasha starts to realize maybe the person I'm with here is actually quite dangerous, right? And as their romance develops, things get darker and darker towards a very, very dark ending. So, and Elena, what got you started on writing? Like, when did you first start working on this?
The book started maybe about 4 years ago, I think. It's a large project. It's very was complex for me, and it took me courage to go there, sit, and start a book. I
Yeah,
always dreamed about writing and being a writer, but I always had that perception when, like, you're not a Shakespeare. Who are you to write? Who are you
yeah,
to create that craft? You're not an artist. And I
yeah.
have a computer science degree, but I always had that creative mindset. Like, I walk around and I
Mm.
see a leaf that falls down from the tree, and I catch the spirit and the beauty
Yeah.
of fallen. So this
Mm.
writing mindset was always there. But what it took me to start is I realized that life is short, and if I don't start right now, maybe I will never have my book published.
Yeah,
And
I understand that. And it's interesting when we started together, actually thinking back, I can't remember exactly what stage were you at. Did you have the draft already, or maybe you hadn't
yes,
finished anything?
I had my first draft, and I had a few alpha readers who read the book, and they said, well, my friends, they said, well, it's a good book, a good job, basically. But I was like, well, I'm not sure. I really need some expert opinion on that. And so I joined the Write Your First Novel group on Facebook,
Yeah.
and that's how we met with Max. And he said, well, if you're not sure, why don't you let me take a look at the book?
Mm.
So we looked at that together, and you showed me where my plot holes are and where
Yeah.
we should be developing even deeper.
Yeah, exactly. And that was interesting because we see that situation a lot with people that they come and talk to us and they say, "But I already had feedback and they couldn't find any problems." And we were like, "But who did you have the feedback from? Was it an editor?" And most of the time, like, well, no, like it was my mom or something like that, right? And then we start to look a bit more closely at the book, and then we start to realize, hold on, this is not finished. Like this has a long way to go. There's a lot that you can still improve. Do you remember what were like the main problems or the main places where you were getting stuck that we kind of helped you with?
Actually, a lot.
Yeah.
First of all, since my book is quite complex, it has a historical element. It's a psychological thriller, so you really have to develop very deep characters. Otherwise, readers gonna say, "I don't believe it. It's not
Uh,
believable."
yeah.
So that was a problem. And also, since it's a romance-driven psychological thriller, I just wrote it as I saw, right? So romance started nicely and smooth, and then it goes deeper and darker. While when you're creating a specific genre, you have to stick with this genre. You just can't combine them two together,
Yeah.
like two different pieces. So that was my main problem, because people started reading my book and they're like, oh yeah, it's a romance, how romantic, how great. And then in the middle of a book they're like, what is going on? It's not a romance. Yeah, I don't like it, because I'm a romance person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting trying to fuse those two genres together. And when we were actually working together, like what aspect of the work which we did together was the most helpful part for you?
It's continuous feedback.
Right.
It's constantly having someone that I can go and talk about, because even if like you have friends and other writers, they have limited time, and over time they get quite tired of you coming and asking them questions.
Yeah.
So that constant support and having a community, and also creating a book, now I understand it's a project where you are a creative director of your project. Now, if you try to do it alone, it has so many pieces. You need an editor and an alpha readers and beta readers,
Yeah.
and you need a team to help you out. Otherwise, large projects, they're never done by themselves.
Yeah.
I think it's a very, wrong perception.
Yeah, exactly. And now we got this from the point where it was kind of raw material and there was a lot of problems with the story, all the way to the point where it now has been edited, it's in really good shape, and people can go and buy it as well. Elena, what would you say to anyone who's like in a similar situation to what you were in, where like you've kind of written the first draft and you're struggling to find feedback? What would you say to anyone who's like thinking of maybe having some help with the book?
I would suggest to go and get somebody with a professional eye to look at that, because if you're a first time writer, there's the things that you might be very talented and you
Mm.
might be like reading many books, but it's a process, and it takes a big effort.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to be like many people who stuck on their project for many years and they're not moving anywhere. And the reason why is they don't know where to move. So the
Mm.
guidelines and people with experience, you will certainly need. I would strongly suggest.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I really enjoyed talking today. And so, people who want to buy the book, I'm going to include a link to Elena's book above this video. So you can just click the link to go to Amazon. And Amazon is the best place for people to buy this. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's
Perfect.
an Amazon. Mhm.
Amazing. Napoleon's Bride, dark romantic thriller. If you like crazy secrets, well, I was gonna say some other stuff, but I don't want to spoil it. If you like that kind of story, go pick up Elena's book and go enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.